we might do a little work while we're here, so we won't have to do a little work later. See that? I'm always thinking. Who do we have here? I'm setting up for tomorrow afternoon's live stream. I'm really looking forward to talking with Jeff Bailey. Jeff Bailey is a yogi. He is a student of A Course in Miracles. He wrote several books on yoga, but this particular book is called The Yoga Mind. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Jamie. I came across a video of you doing jump lunges just a few minutes ago. You know what? I didn't think it was you. Um, you are looking, not that you weren't before, but even more so now. You've transformed your body quite a bit. You're looking very lean, very strong. Jimmy says, I've been looking into a method for pull-ups called bending the bar. Oh, yeah. Uh, yep. As if you're bending the bar as you go up. You could add a rep easily just doing that. Bending the bar, it's a mental cue to increase lat activation and automatic retraction and depression of the scapula. Very, very good practice. Toy Pups, how are you? Hey, Cat. Cat, hi, Jamie. Hi, Toy Pups. Duncan, hey. Duncan, I wasn't sure if you're going to make it or not. Let's do it. We started off with some fitness questions. Let me I'm sending it right on over. I'm going to change the title too, so people know. Duncan, I just sent it over. I sent the link to you. Hey, Jamie, do you have any fitness question? Duncan Walsh is coming up. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. So Duncan should be up in a minute, guys. Have your questions ready. You can ask questions about Duncan in his playing days. You can ask him about his workouts. You can ask him about your workouts or starting your workouts or starting a diet or ending a diet or not going on a diet or the importance of diet. You can ask Duncan, why does he have better abs than me? You can ask Duncan to prove that he has better abs than me. Hey, Michael. Michael, I'm glad you had a good time. So I'm changing the title here. Your fitness and training questions answered by expert Duncan Walsh. I've been looking forward to talking to Duncan for a long time. Let's see. Jamie's going to try the pull-up cue. Hey, Miss Flipper. Danny, how are you? Cat says, yes, you guys are great together. The cat says, hey, Michael, I watched your podcast from the other day. It was bad and could not comment. It was great. You look great. There he is, guys. There he is. The legendary Duncan Walsh.
You okay? Now, I only, I've just realised it was only on mobile, so
Gotcha.
I've just managed to. I'm just adjusting my phone now. I've literally just come back from a session.
So I know what you wanted to do.
Hold on, I'll just turn this off. Right, there we go.
I know why you just came back from a session. You wanted to be pumped up when you came here.
Well, yeah, I've got a baggy T-shirt on, so I'm not giving anything too much away.
You know what the first question was?
Go on.
Why do you have better abs than I do? Kat wants to know. Kat wants to know, why does Duncan have better abs than Yogi?
I've got a better photographer.
I'll tell you why.
I took a photo. I'd done it. We were on holiday, and I was returning to the to where we were staying in a lift, and it had just really, it was surrounded in mirrors, and the lighting, obviously lighting is really important when you take a photograph, and you can look very sort of average, and then in better lighting, correct shadowing, you can look much better. And this lighting was perfect, so I thought, right, I've got to take a photo here, and so it was on the channel. So it was, I would say, it was overly complimentary, shall we say?
You know what? I don't think lighting is going to diminish your abs one bit. I can tell you the secret to your abs, and I think you know this too. You have a different way of doing sit-ups.
Well, it's interesting because there's a style of sit-ups that I've done for quite a while, and they do work very well. The rectus abdominis, so that the front, the visible six-pack, if you will. But I don't think they are like. There's no substitute really for the Navy SEALs for getting your core, the inner core muscles. I think they tend to, because I actually stop watched it once, and in a 20-minute session of the Navy SEALs, you're in the plank position for over 7 minutes.
Well,
which is actually quite a, just sort of that would be difficult in itself, doing a
right.
7 minutes worth of plank.
Not to mention the plank, and then you have the knee motion at the same time, and then you
Absolutely,
have the as you're standing up, you're getting an ab contraction, right?
Yep. So it all contributes, doesn't it?
Yep. Let me tell
Do,
everyone.
do you actually do any? Do you actually do any dedicated sort of core work yourself, or is it just incorporated into the exercises?
I do planks. You know why I do planks? I do planks. I do planks. I do wall squats. Not that wall squats are for abs. I do horse stance. I do it for blood pressure, isometrics, and blood pressure. I actually don't have issues with blood pressure, but that helps me make sure that I never will have blood pressure. There's been a lot of studies that show isometrics um, effectively lower your blood pressure.
Yes, yeah. I've never tried horse stance. Do you find you get quite a lot from that?
Yes. Here's what
And
I
you
get out of
find
it:
you're fatiguing mainly in the legs, I guess.
legs, core, including the lower back, quite a bit. What I get out of it is a
Right.
whole lot of pain. It's just not fun to do at all.
Yeah.
I want to mention to everyone what we're going to do. That guys, if you have any fitness related questions, training questions, um, dietary questions too, right?
I'm just going to stretch a little bit as I speak to you.
Feel free to ask Duncan, and I will relay it. Sniper said hi to you, by the way, Duncan.
Hi, Sniper.
And let's see, who else did we have here?
How was your session today?
I had an easy session today. I did just an interval walk in the morning, early in the morning, and then I did 5 minutes of one-arm kettlebell swings, 10 reps every 30 seconds to get 100 reps in. And then I did my little isometric thing, and then I did some band work, or bands with handles. So I did some overhead presses supersetted with band curls. Um, and I finished off with just an easy little couple reps of burpees, one pumps. Tomorrow is going to be one of your favorite workouts, kettlebell clean and jerk interval sessions. 1 minute on, 1 minute off. I know you're a huge fan of
Right.
intervals.
Yeah, I guess it's a form of training I've done for years. Yes, yeah, interval training, different in a sense to HIIT training, in the sense that interval training can be any work to rest ratio. So you could have a sprinter doing interval training, 6 seconds on and 3 minutes off. Just going for it for six. Sprinters. I've been on a running track where there was another guy doing sprint work, and he spent, I would say, 70% of the session warming up, 5% of the time doing the actual work, and then the remaining 25% was warming down. They just do a huge amount of warming up and warming down, but it was just completely flat out explosive stuff. But yeah, you could have intervals like that, whereas HIIT training is a bit more designed to get your heart rate up.
Right.
Interval training, typically does do that as well, but not necessarily, because like I say, you could have a sprinter doing interval work that doesn't really get your heart rate that high.
Speaking of speaking of intervals, thinking about hit sessions, you're not a fan of what's popularly called Tabata, are you?
Well, I don't mind it. I think what happened was I've had a few goes of it, and I found that I think it's got to be structured very well, because I once had a court sprint Tabata session. So in other words, 20 seconds hard, 10 seconds rest, and then the idea is for 8 sets.
Right.
And after the third set, you're just slowing down. So it didn't really, the work to rest ratio was too high, it felt. 20 seconds on at a flat out pace, 10 seconds, once you got to a few reps, you were just slowing down. So you weren't maintaining that level of intensity as you were in the first 3 sets, say.
What
So, but I think if you mix it up with other exercises, so if one exercise had been squat jumps, and then another exercise was push-ups, and then another exercise was burpees, and another, I think you can get away with it better then with the small amount of rest.
right.
Whereas if it's the same exercise, you're just going to fatigue. Especially if you were doing the 20 seconds at sort of 75%, then you'd be better able to maintain it. But if it's this 90% effort, then you're just going to slow down because it's not enough rest.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Hey,
So
Sniper wants to
yeah,
know, Duncan, what about rest days? How many and when?
I think it probably depends how hard you train. And so many things. I think the answer to is, well, it depends. It depends on the individual. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. Rest is a training principle. So the idea of rest is essential, because otherwise you would just break down. But people can have active rest days. You can also have a rest from a particular activity. So you may, if someone went running on one particular day, on a Monday, they may choose to then do an upper body gym session on the Tuesday, and then they may choose to have legs on a Wednesday. So in theory, you could train every day, but it depends how hard you train. Some days you will need an active rest day, which is very good. It gets the blood flowing and helps recovery in itself. So sometimes complete rest is not the best solution. You're better off keeping things moving. But if you've done an absolute killer of a session, again, some individuals might find the next day just a little bit of light exercise. Some people might want to do absolutely nothing. And it's also, there's a psychological aspect to rest as well. Some people feel that if they have a mental break from exercise, let's say they train on a Monday and a Tuesday, and then if they have Wednesday and Thursday off, they feel they can really go into it psychologically fresher on the Friday to really attack the session. So if you're training every day, psychologically it can wear you down, or you can feel like you're going through the motions. But then some people feel worse if they don't exercise every day. So I think it depends on the physical and psychological state of the individual, really. But as a generic statement, rest is a training principle. That rest has to play a role at some stage, but it may be in the form of an active rest.
Right.
I think is my opinion anyway.
What do you think of people who do streaks, like someone who's absolutely crazy and alternates Navy SEALs and one pumps every day for
Yeah.
for 2 years without taking a day off?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends if it's performance. It depends what the reason is. I would never just sort of say that's wrong or that's right. If that individual feels better doing that, whoever that may be, then that in itself is a reason to do it. You know, if someone feels better to train every day and do that, then that's fine. But I think if it's performance related, then one would probably need easier rest days. Maybe if they wanted to still train, maybe a couple of very light active rest days. So
Right.
it would be difficult to get the best performance out of training quite hard every day. There would need to be a bit more rest, I think, even if it took the form of active rest days. So yeah, but going quite hard every day is probably not going to lead to the best performance, I guess is what I would say.
So do you think that this hypothetical person would have gotten more than 126 Navy SEALs in 20 minutes had he taken a rest
Yes,
day?
yes, yes, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And again,
Um,
just hypothetically speaking.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, actually, there was. I suppose it's if you want to keep a streak of burpees going, isn't it? Then, whereas you could do Navy SEALs and 6 counts on Monday and Tuesday, and then have a couple of uh, leg heavy sessions the next day or whatever, and then come back to them. So that's why I'm quite a big advocate of variety in your training, because you can still keep training, but you are giving one form of training a rest. I know there's cross training, you're using the similar muscles, but you could do burpees on a Monday and Tuesday and do a leg heavy sessions Wednesday and Thursday, go back to the burpees on a Friday and feel relatively fresh for that. I always think as well, though, there's a systemic energy. So in other words, how much energy you have in your system. So in that scenario, if you'd still trained Monday to Thursday, even though you hadn't done upper body for a couple of days, the amount of available energy in your body would be less. Your upper body hasn't been worked, but your system is still depleted a little bit from energy. And then, of course, there is the slight danger of, if you train quite hard every day, your immune system is constantly low. I mean, I've been there and done that many times, where then you're susceptible to any bug that's going. The
Right.
slightest thing that you would normally fight off, your immune system's lower, and you can end up with a bug of some sort that then persists, and 2-3 weeks, and you still feel just not right. So there's the immune system side of things as well, I think, from rest, as
Had
well.
I had I if I were to get back into doing burpees on a, I still do them daily, warm ups, cool downs, that kind of stuff. But if I were to get into seeing how many I could do again, it would be straight up busy dad, not the way I did it before, but the way he outlines it. 80 minutes. And then I would do active recovery of maybe some rucking, just put a pack on and go out on my off days. Um, but I wouldn't do it like I did it last time.
Sure. I mean, I found the best thing that worked for me was I actually don't think that it's a great basic sort of formula to follow the busy dad 80 minutes, but there are going to be at least a couple, two or three, at least two sessions that you're going to do quite depleted in that schedule. I'm not sure if 4 good sessions a week is too much in terms of the way it's spread over the week. I found it better. My go-to session was actually I'd do 20 minutes of, let's say, Navy SEALs. I'd have 5 minutes rest, do another hard 5 minutes, another 5 minutes rest, and then another hard 5 minutes. So that total time is actually a 40-minute session with a total of 30 minutes worth of Navy SEALs. But they were all high intensity because I'd had the rest beforehand. Now that's in the Busy Dad program, then that's 40 minutes. But I'd be quite happy then to have 2 or 3 days without doing burpees before I then I did my next Navy SEAL session, so that I'd really overloaded that first session, had 3 days off from burpees. I might have done other training, but 3 days off from the burpees, and then attacked the session again. So every session is high quality and really attacking the workout, rather than, because I believe he'll do, for example, the Navy SEALs, and then the next day is 6. Oh no, I think it's 6 counts. Then the Navy SEALs,
Right.
1 day off, and then 6 counts and Navy SEALs. So consecutive days, you are going to be a little bit depleted. And then it depends how good your rest is in between. Was it sort of 5-6 hours sleep, or was it 8 or 9 hours sleep? You know, so there are so many factors that go into a performance. You know, when I was playing squash, one of the things that you had to get good at was performing on a day at a particular time. You know, let's say it could be a 9 p.m. match. You're on court at 9 p.m. on a particular day, and you have to have all the planets need to align at that time on that day to be ready for it.
Right.
And so everything is geared to performance, really, rather than training for other reasons, for health and fitness, where your performance doesn't really matter so much as long as you put in a good effort. Whereas a good effort when I was playing squash isn't enough. You're trying to win, and you might be playing for a team where people need you to win. You know, the number of times you turn up to a match and you go, "You've got to win tonight. We need you to win. We've got so many points in the league. You've got to win tonight." It's right, okay. You know, so everything was performance oriented. I mean, you've been there, I guess, for, you know, you've got race days, haven't you, where you've got to
Yep.
perform on a day.
Yep. So what do you think if you were to join forces with Max, Busy Dad? What do you think of doing a Busy Dad performative day where the bulk of your training is leading up to a particular day that you peak for, and this is it? This is comp day. This is the day you're going to see. I've been training for this day for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and bam, on the money. I either get the reps that I'm shooting for, or I don't, and I go back to the drawing board and I start my plan over again.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, I think it's I think the thing is that I mean, the first thing is the whole Busy Dad program is a fantastic way of inspiring people and getting people into exercise and things like that. But there's two different sort of factors at play, really. There's the getting people into exercise who've been out of it, that you're motivating them or giving them a goal to reach, and they're doing it as a busy dad for health and fitness.
Right.
And then, but then sort of integral to that is performance. You know, that they're trying to actually get PRs and trying to beat their last score. So there's the aspect of, oh, I go to the gym or I do 4 sessions a week and the regularity of that. But then actually people are trying to beat their PRs, and there's a performance element as well. So, so yeah, I think it's I think sometimes you've got to overload your system. You have to train fatigued. Sometimes you have to build up your fitness, and then there are other sessions, I think, where you've got to rest to attack it, to get the higher level of intensity and push up the level. Otherwise, every session just becomes a sort of a grind type session, rather than one that's geared to performance.
And I think we've seen
I
the
would say.
results of that, the mental strain that can happen when every day is a PR attempt.
Yes.
You start to dread your workouts,
Yes.
and we've seen that psychological toll on some friends.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that 2 tiers to the busy dad training. The regular, what he's doing now, getting people ready and in shape. And then you have the advanced, and the advanced is when you are training for those PRs. That seems
Yes.
to be. Have you spoken to Max lately?
No. I've I mean, obviously he's a busy guy. I write the odd comment on his channel and etc. But yeah, I think it's. I mean, I do believe he coaches people. I think he has coaching sessions with people, and I think a lot of the time he's probably dealing with his own demons for sort of his own performances and his own sort of the each session. In a way, it's quite entertaining in the sense that, in a good way, in the sense that there's a lot of drama to all of his performances. It's just a standard Monday, but you can tell he's so much into it, and the devastation of not reaching a particular number, or the elation of getting a number, and
Right.
the whole ordeal. It's a story in itself, each sort of session for him, but I don't know to what extent he's had to. I mean, he's obviously achieved his own graduation numbers,
Yeah, a couple times, I believe.
but he's doing a lot of burpees a week, even though it's only 4 sessions a week. In terms of exercise, they're all burpees. So there's a lot of background of burpees, and he probably isn't exploiting quite as well as he could the quantity of burpees that he's got, because he's very often probably jaded for each session. And of course, if you're just training jaded all the time, all you're doing is wearing down your body. Really, it's a sort of there's probably a lot of sessions that. But I think if you stick to the 4 20 minutes, it's difficult not to be jaded on that schedule. I think. I think for me, if I was training, I think I'd prefer to do almost 2 40-minute sessions a week, and then other sorts of training in between.
Right.
Where you could really and then perhaps every other week go for the PR. So you might have, say, week 1 where you do 2 40 minutes, a 40-minute 6 counts and a 40-minute Navy SEALs, and then you rest, and then the next week you go for your PRs, and then the next week you build up again with 2 40-minuters, and then, but they have to be high intensity 40 minutes. So in other words, you go hard for 20 minutes, rest hard. Not Max's 40-minuters are a slower pace grind 40 minutes, not a high intensity 40 minutes.
Right.
So but I might be being overcritical. It's at the end of the day, it's he has graduated, and his program, and so
He's
everyone
no
has
doubt
different ways of doing things.
right. No doubt, he's fit and he's strong. his plan has worked well for him. I don't know. I don't know if it would work for everyone. Not everyone is meant to do burpees anyway.
Sure.
What
What What are
Go
the
ahead.
occasions when you've had to have you sort of you've had to peak for your long runs, haven't you?
Yep.
You know that's you know, on a given day you've got to perform on that day. How did you find the whole sort of peaking for a particular day at a particular time? Did you find
Um,
that fairly
you might be able to guess what was difficult for me, the tapering, um,
right?
because I wanted to keep doing stuff. I did not want to taper. But if you don't taper, um, you're not going to uh, perform as well. And when you're training for, if I was training for a 50K and it was just to do a 50K, I didn't care how I finished or how fast I did it. Maybe I won't taper. But training for a 100-mile race, everything has to be perfect. Absolutely everything. And you got to train your diet. What food can I eat? Um, what doesn't upset my stomach at mile 20? What's not going to upset my stomach at mile 50? So you're training your digestive system. You're training how to run on tired legs, how to keep moving on tired legs. You're training how to walk because not everyone knows how to walk after they've been running for 40 miles and they got to walk for a little while before they can start running again. A lot of people who are reduced to walking find that they're using different muscles and they can't do it. They're too tired, they're too sore, they get sore. Um, I was training someone for her very first 100-mile race, and we went out for a walk, did a 20-mile walk. She was more sore from the walk than all the running she had done the previous probably 3 months. So you got to train all kinds of different modalities, not to mention you need a decent strength training plan, strengthen the entire body without taking away from the recovery of your running. So a lot of balancing. Uh, Training for anything, as you know, from a professional athlete, um, it's precise and it can be precarious. If you swing too far in any direction, and if your nutrition isn't dialed in, you're going to be in trouble on game day, no matter what the game is.
And what did you find was the most difficult aspect of the longer runs?
Um,
Is it just like a general fatigue or equipment or chafing? Anything, you
chafing's
know?
chafing's always an issue. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, chafing is it's comes with the territory, and that's again you're training to find out um, how to prevent it, what to do when it happens. Blisters, foot care. Um, I was pretty lucky in foot care mainly because I was running in minimal shoes, sometimes even barefoot shoes, and so you're going to get less issues as far as blisters are concerned. But then you get issues of, if you come down hard on a rock in barefoot shoes, you might be in trouble. For me, the hardest thing
what,
was go ahead.
no, no, go on. The hardest thing,
The hardest thing for me was always the tapering because about
right?
you want to taper for a minimum 10 days if not longer. So you're training, you reach that point where you're feeling fit and you're strong, your recovery's on point, and then you got to start tapering and you just want to keep going, you want to throw in, and you're always tempted. Can I throw in one last long run? Can I throw in one last hard run? And you don't want to. From experience, uh, you don't want to. So eventually, towards the end of my um, ultra running, competitive ultra running, I wasn't training to I wasn't training so much for performance anymore as I was just to be out there and to do it. So I didn't need to taper really because I wasn't trying to see how fast I could do. I just I was enjoying the finish. So that's one
Do
of
you
the luck.
feel you had to do? Do you feel you had to do 100 miles in training in one run to cover to feel confident that you are there, or
No.
what's the sessions or the period of days that you do where you think, yes, I've done enough training here to I feel confident that I'm going to get through it?
Um, so I know a lot of ultra runners who've never done more than a 20-mile training run and finish 100-mile races. Now, what they might do is back to back 20s. So on a Saturday, they go out for 20. The next day, they go out for another 20. That way, it teaches you to perform on tired legs. Because in a 100-mile race, you're going to perform on tired. In a 50-mile race, you're going to perform on tired legs. Um, so you want to learn how to um, perform through fatigue, and the only way to do that is tired legs out on one race, and then or that's the way I used to do it. I might sign up for a training race, 50K. And then the next day I would go out and I would walk 20 miles after the 50K. So I would get a good run in for 31 miles, 50K. And then I'd go out and walk or run at it. Really easy pace or combined walking, running, really, really easy. You know,
And how much
cash.
rest was in between that, between the run and the walk? How much rest would have been? Was it the next day?
Yeah, it was the next day.
Right. The reason I ask is because, I mean, it was only I was only about 19 and I was just getting into a bit of running, and so it was early, very early days, and I entered a half marathon, and I think I did a couple of 10-mile runs beforehand. I was playing a little. I just started playing squash, and I'd done a couple of 10-mile runs, and then I think I did an 11-mile run, and I thought, oh, that's good enough. I'll be fine. But then on race day, I actually sort of struggled more at the end. And of course, you're running a little bit faster than you might in your training runs.
Right.
So it was quite an ordeal to get through. And I thought, never again will I think 11 miles is enough. I'll always cover the distance in training. So I didn't know if that principle applied to the longer runs where you'd want to go out and do at least a 70, 80. Is it 100 kilometers or 100 miles?
100 miles. They do have 100K
100
races
miles.
too. Yep.
Yeah. And do that sort of distance to at least feel confident to know you've done the distance. But obviously, people don't do that.
Right. Now, I had uh, 3 failed 100-mile races before I finally nailed it. And I switched my
Right.
training around. I reduced my running quite a bit. I did more strength training. I did a lot of walking, but I ran um, anywhere from 2 to 6 miles on a Tuesday, and again 2 to 6 miles on a Thursday. Had a day off in between. I would strength train, and then Saturday I started off really light, where you might run 3 in the morning, 3 miles in the morning, and then 4 miles later in the afternoon or early evening. And then you do something similar on Sunday. But you only do that once every 3 weeks. But each time you do it, you're increasing the mileage. By my hard training week to finish off the plan before the race, I did 24 miles Saturday morning, 27 miles Saturday evening. I did 27 miles Sunday, and I did Sunday morning and 24 miles Sunday evening. So in a 48-hour period, um, I had covered less than 48, really. I had covered just about 100 miles and on tired fatigue legs. So I knew I had that 100. As long as my nutrition played out, I didn't do anything stupid, which I've been prone to do before. My first 100, I tried to be 100% pure, fueling on nothing but fruit. Um, I didn't take any. Some people will take ibuprofen, uh, any some kind of anti-inflammatory later in the race. Um, and I also had really bad stomach issues, so I became dehydrated. Um, and I tapped out at mile 66 on my first 100-mile attempt.
And how much of the race is spent walking, would you say?
Depends on depends on how good you are. The top
Yeah.
level, the people who are doing. Put it this way: when I finished my first 100-mile race, um, it was in 29 hours and 4 seconds. The guy who won the race shook my hand at the finish line. Actually, paid me a nice compliment. Um, he won the race. He finished. He hung out for a bit. He went home. He drove home. He had dinner. He went to bed. Woke up. Drove back to the race to welcome all the rest of the people in. That's how fast he was. Um, and at the
Yes.
I think he might have did it in
Yeah.
about 12 hours. The record is like 10 something, but it was a pretty flat 100-mile race. You still there? Yep. But he told me at the finish line,
He would have been a young guy.
he's like, I don't know how you do it. I couldn't stay out there all night like you did. So that was a nice compliment.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, the better you are, the faster you go. But if you are used to that pace, you're working
Right.
for a shorter period of time. So it's a weird situation. Your body is used to working for 29 hours, whereas his is used to working for 12 hours. Obviously, it's a higher intensity, but yeah, it's. I just wondered because sometimes one can have a typical running gait, and then there's walking, but then there must be many sort of shuffles versions in between.
Right.
Where you're not really walking, but it's a bit of a shuffle, and possibly a little bit quicker than walking pace, but you're not actually running. I would
Funny that
imagine.
funny you say that with shuffling. There was a farmer in Australia who um, heard about 100-mile race, not far from him, um, and he thought, let's give it a try, see what happens. And he came there in his farming, his rubber boots. I think he might have been wearing like coveralls, um, and he did this odd sort of shuffle, and he won the race. Might have been even over 100 miles. Might have been, yeah, it might have been like a super long race. Can't you can find him on
Yeah,
YouTube. I'll try to send you the um and they
yeah,
asked him, "What's with that shuffle?" And he said, "Well, that's how I run after my goats out in the mountains." And he's like,
yeah.
I do it all day. Never trained for anything, never ran a race before. Uh, but all day he shuffles after his goats. Never gets tired.
Yeah.
Rests when he felt like resting, and then he gets back up and shuffles again. And that's what he did, and he won the
And it's a
race.
little bit quicker than walking pace.
Right.
Yeah. Because sometimes if I do my hill, so one of my sessions is hill sprints. And so I go up this hill, which is probably about 300 meters. But as I'm coming down, the rest interval, and sometimes and I'm sort of shuffling down, so this is just the rest in between the sprints, and I think, well, I'm conning myself thinking that I'm jogging down, whereas really I'm going about walking pace, but I've got this sort of little shuffle going on, and I might be going slightly faster than walking pace, but it feels like something that you could maintain for quite a long time.
Right. Hey, we have a question from our friend Ellie that says, "What inspires you to continue on your journey through fitness?"
um I'm just, it's just habit. I think it's just in your blood. I think once you get sort of, old and gnarly like myself, you sort of, you've just been doing it for so long. In a way, you really almost um, are beyond inspiration or motivation. It's just habit. You just think, a Monday comes around, okay, I'll do this today or I'll do that. It's almost like doing the laundry, or oh, I've got to go to there, I've got to do this, that, and the other. That it's quite sort of uninspiring in a way. It's very matter of fact, and so there's nothing particularly. Having said that, one of the guys that I subscribe to, and he comments on my video as I comment on his. I think he's called Pierre Fitness. He's 70.
French.
He's just. Is it Pierre? He's American.
Oh, he's American.
And he's 70, and he does burpees, and he does jumping burpees, and he does lunge jumps, and he does it usually in a big field. And he starts his videos, welcome Pierre sports fans, here we are in another session, and he's 70, and he's doing tough plyometric exercises. He also does weighted dips, and he's quite inspirational in the sense that I think if you see someone that is older than you, who's still maintaining fitness, that is not walking the dog, or I go to the gym and get a bit of a sweat, or just do exercise. Someone who's actually doing hard training, then you think, oh, good on you. And it's a, I suppose that people like that can inspire you. So I suppose if you see someone that's older, that's still giving it a good old go, then that can be inspiring, I think. So but for myself, it's just more matter of fact. I don't know about yourself, Eric. Or
when you retire from competitive squash, did you have a hard time at first getting to the gym? Were you like, "What's the purpose? I'm not training for anything."
No, the only thing I did notice once was that I think because so there was I managed to win this tournament sort of when I was about 40. And that felt like something I could hang my hat on to say, okay, I'm happy to move on to a different phase of life now. But the training didn't change at all. That was different from playing competitive squash. There's only so much you can, unless you do age groups, you can't really. It's a young man's sport to play it at the highest level. But you can compete with other people of your age, I guess. Although when I was playing, because I was older, I was often competing against people. So I was sort of, there wasn't any particular hard time moving on to keep the training going. There was one difference I noticed, though. There was one particular thing that I did where I noticed that I'm in a different frame of mind now. And that was, I was probably in my late 40s. And I thought I hadn't been doing that much running. And I thought, you know what, I think I'll do a bit more running. I'll see if I can do 2 miles in 12 minutes. So I thought, okay, so I'll get back into my running and see if I can do 2 miles in 12 minutes on the running machine. And I did a few sessions, and then I can't remember how long it took. Not too long, but I was in this one particular one, and I was on schedule, and I thought, okay, I think I can push through and do this, and I managed to do it. So I did the 11:50, whatever it was, and I remember as I got back to the house, I realised it didn't mean anything to me. Right. It meant nothing. I just thought, so what? I just done it in that time. So what? And at that point, I thought, yeah, like years ago. I mean, years ago, I would have done that more easily anyway. But if I'd have done a really good training session in good times, I'd have thought, yes, I'm getting fitter here. This is all good, and been sort of enthusiastic about it. But on that occasion, I just thought it didn't mean anything to me. And I realised I'd moved on from the days of wanting to get fitter for my squash. It was now more health and fitness orientated rather than performance.
Sure.
But I would say, yeah.
How do you feel after your 150 plus Navy SEALs?
Yeah, that was good because it was I didn't feel the same actually for the running because I'd never done that before, so that was a new goal. a new
Right.
thing that I'd achieved, I guess. Whereas, you know, if back in the day I'd done 2 miles in under 12 minutes, I think, well, what's so good about that? You know, you're a young guy. I'm training all the time. I should be able to do that. I should be
Right.
able to do multiple miles in under, you know. So it didn't feel like it was anything. Whereas that, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do that 20 years ago without training because it's a very specific exercise.
Right.
So it was quite nice that the program to give you a bit of a goal. And I did think, you know, I'll see if I can do it at my age.
Hey, that's the good thing. And you're not 60 yet, are you? You
This
got
year,
this year. Um,
yeah.
everything is now a PR. Everything is going to be an after 60 PR.
I
I cel-
suppose so. Yes, yeah,
I celebrate everything. I woke up in the morning, PR, awesome. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so uh, try. Do you think you might try to hit 150 again? 60 plus, 60 years old.
Yeah, I suppose you could think that it's a bit like I think I'd have to. I'm not sure. There's a guy actually that does burpee. Now he does them all the time. So and he's 50. And but every workout he does, like I'll do burpees maybe once a week. He every session he does incorporates burpees, weight training. And he's called Saga of Joshua, and he's 50, and he's done 160 Navy SEALs, uh, or something like 161 or two, something like that. So that shows what. Obviously, he's a bit younger, but I'm not sure if he did them when he was 49, but. But it shows that, you know, if you develop that specific fitness, you can get it up. So I did think, oh, do I want to try and get up to those sort of numbers? But I'd probably have to sacrifice my other training,
Right.
which I probably wouldn't want to do. So I usually stick to one session a week. Um, if I overload it on that day and do extra and extra, then I could still progress. But I think I'd have to do at least 2 tough sessions a week to get up to that level. But if someone wanted to give me $1 billion, I could maybe do it. But
You know what? I'll see what we can do. I'm going to talk to the burpee
yeah,
community.
yeah.
Do you have what are there any plans for 60 performance wise? Anything that you'd like to? Um,
I don't. I think not. Not. I haven't given me myself anything particular. Um, did you give yourself any goals?
um, well, I'm happy. I might step on the platform, even if it's just a virtual competition with the kettlebells. Um, but I've hit my numbers um, that uh, you have in the old Soviet system of which kettlebell sport arrived from. They have that master of sports, so you have those numbers to shoot for. And in my uh, age group, I'm actually only supposed to be competing with the 16 kilograms, or I'm sorry, with the 12 kilograms. And I've been training with the 16s, the 18s, and the 20s. So, um,
Yes. So you're well above that. Would you wouldn't want to go for some? You know, is there a world championship for over 60s?
there is. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to go for like a championship. I'm not even sure I'd want to do a meet, but I like the fact that those numbers are in front of me and I can shoot for them. So,
Yes.
even if it's just uh, in my basement and getting those reps and saying, yes, I hit my numbers and with a heavier weight than I was supposed to. Uh, Aging ain't so bad if you do it right. And
Sure.
like you were talking about with your friend, hey, if you could inspire one person to say, man, if this guy can do it when he's 60, almost going to be 61 soon, um, then if I keep training, but I think you got to train smart. I could have trained smarter. through my years. I could have prevented some stuff, but um, it really should be a life. I like to think that I'm training. When I was 50, I started training to be. When I was 40, I started training to be 50. When I was 50, I was training to be 60. Now I'm training to be 70. So I want to be as fit and strong and capable at 70 as I can possibly be.
Yes, I think that the problem for me was that when I was 40, I had to train like someone who was 25, or else my mentality. Let's say when I was 38. So when I was 38, I managed to beat someone who was 50 in the world. So they were. So this wasn't an age group. He was 50 in the world, in all age groups. Just the normal, and he was about 22. And I beat him 3-2. I was 2-0 down, won 3-2. And uh, and I remember at the time thinking, yeah, unless I can train as someone in their 20s does, then I might as well stop. Because those are the guys that I've got to compete with. So if I can't do that, then I might as well end. I mean, you've got people in tennis like Djokovic at the moment. He was in the Australian Open. I think he lost to Alvarez, who's obviously a young guy, but Djokovic is doing well at the top age. But unless you can compete physically with someone at that age, you will just lose.
Right.
It's so no one can say, oh well, there's a slight advantage, handicap if you're older. You're both playing on a level playing field. So yeah. So when I was that age, I used to think, well, I've got to, and also you've not only got to do what a 25-year-old can do, you've got to do a little bit more because you want to beat them. You don't
Right.
want to
Right.
just do the same as them. You've got to do a bit more than a 25-year-old, and that requires a lot of body maintenance. It's a very selfish existence, being a professional athlete, if you will. Or I never like to say, but if you're a professional sportsman, it's very selfish. Everything is geared to yourself. Your
Right.
diet, your sleep, what you do, everything, your training. And you've got to prioritize it over other things. So it doesn't mean you're a selfish person. It's just you're investing in the thing that you're trying to improve.
Sure.
Whereas then, when you become a dad, as in the busy dad thing, it's quite a selfless existence. So it's quite good in that way. In that now I feel I'm living a life and doing lots of things that I don't particularly want to do, but you do it for your kids.
Right.
So so it's been a good compromise. You've gone from living very selfishly to living very selflessly.
So you didn't have a
Or as much
family in your competitive days? You didn't have a family?
No, no. It was in a way it was a conscious thought. Really, it would just be very, very difficult to. You wouldn't be able to do justice to a family and play professional sport. Very few of the athletes that are going around. If you sports people or whatever, they might have some relationship, but it's a big test on the relationship. I think um, you're better off just being single and you're just completely dedicated to the sport. Um, Unless you're happy to play at a lower level. But so again, it depends on the ambitions. But you couldn't even coach as well, because a lot of players would coach on the side for extra income if they wanted
Right.
to. But then that's just taking away energy and time that you could be spent resting, stretching, recovering psychologically. You don't want to be then coaching people. So yeah, it can develop quite a selfish mentality. You have to almost fight against being. You don't want to be a selfish person, but you live your life in a very selfish way to get to that point. Really,
Right. There was
um,
there was two type of ultra runners. That those who at the top of the game or maybe waited a day too late, a race too late, and they lost or they placed out of the top 10 and they would retire and they still train and they might, start promoting races or coach people. but you don't really see them racing anymore. Or they might go
Yeah.
into like fastest known time, which isn't really competitive. You go on a trail and you see if you can get the fastest known time on the trail. And then you have
Okay.
others who age into the sport and they don't care if they place in the top 20. They just like being out there. And
Yeah.
they keep showing up. I know 80-year-olds.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I have a friend in his late 70s. He's an ultra running legend. Uh, top one time top in the game. At 78, countless injuries. He finished another 100-mile race. He's probably done over 100 mile races. He did it with a walker, not like a place walker. It has wheels on it because he had a stroke several years ago after suffering a head injury. So he doesn't have his balance. But he
Right.
just got his another buckle 100-mile race. Um, but some people can't stand the thought of I'm not in the top 10 anymore, so why bother?
Yes.
And other people can't stand the thought of not being out there and
Yeah.
still doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much like you have boxers that, I mean, obviously boxers, there's a danger, and they go on that bit long, and then it can be a bit sad to see them decline.
Right,
And you think these people were legends once, and now they're declining, they're losing to people that they wouldn't have ordinarily lost to, but they might be doing it for a payday, and then this, that, and but all of these things are a personal journey, really. It's down to the individual what they want to do. um Tyson Fury, for example, is just coming out now. He's back into it. He was supposedly retired, and now he's coming back, much against it. Now he is a family guy. He lost count how many kids he's got, and his wife is dead against it. But he just says, and he suffered a lot with depression, and he went through huge depression issues. I don't know if you know his history, but uh, and he just says, the only thing that gives him that real spark in life is fighting. He's been brought up with it. That's what does it for him. um, but you've got to be careful that it doesn't destroy you.
right,
If there's a saying in that you're only a slave to what masters you, and sometimes you have to ask the question, who's in charge here? Am I in charge, or are the demons in charge? And it's
it's
quite good to give yourself a test to say, well, could I resist that? Could I, if someone was an alcoholic or something, well, is that in charge, or am I in charge? And say, right, well, could I not drink for a month? Could I do it, or would I convince myself that I could do it, but really I couldn't do it? And the proof is, well, you just have to do it. So sometimes you have to ask who's in, and are the boxing demons? Can he just not resist it? um, because obsession, all of these things play a role in all sorts of aspects of life, and training and fitness. People, are we obsessed with fitness? Is it a healthy obsession? Is it not a healthy obsession? Um, does it ultimately make us better? Are we subject to our demons, or are we not? Or are
right.
we in control of it? You
And
know,
imagine if someone, use the example of drinking. Can you resist it? Now imagine if someone dangled a huge payday in front of you to go ahead and do it, how hard it would be.
yeah,
So you're fighting your addiction.
sure.
Go ahead.
We see so many people today that are subject to sort of temptation, if you will, for money and power and all of these things, and will compromise their own moral compass for those things. But then, there's the old adage, oh, everybody has a price. So would someone do? Would a normal person in the public do those things if you offered them $100 million? There's probably a lot of people that might compromise their morals for $100 million.
Right.
There's a lot of tests of one's self I suppose. And it comes into all walks of life, I suppose. Every so often, I would sort of, I did this within my training, but it was always one big test, a big test. So if I had a session and I was going to do, I had a big session lined up, and it was going to be 50 sets of something. And so the temptation would be, well, I'm going to pace myself for those 50 sets. And then I think, well, hang on, if I go hard for the first 10, then I've got to survive the next 40. It's easy to get to 50 when you're already on 40 and you've reserved some. But what
Right.
happens if you feel terrible at set 11 and you've got 39 more to do? And so there was always some psychological test involved in things. And of course, if you pass those tests, it's making you stronger mentally all the time. But it is applicable to life. I think the resilience that one can develop in training and fitness, there's absolutely a carryover to life, I would say. I don't know if you found that or.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, you can't put a price on resilience. And a good training program should leave you resilient, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally at the same time. You've been through hard stuff, and vice versa. That going through the hard stuff in life makes you more resilient in your training. I mean, for me, my training was heaven sent when I was caregiving for my mom and for my dad. It was 20 minutes where all I had to think about was uh, either going out for a run or doing a hard kettlebell set or whatever. And I started doing Busy Dad when I was still caregiving for my father. So I will forever be thankful, grateful for Max um, giving me 20 minutes to go down to my basement and knock out as many Navy SEALs or as many 6 ounce as it could. Hey, Tom. Um, because that 20 minutes of doing nothing but moving uh, was, I needed it, is all I can say. I absolutely needed it. Hey, I wanted to ask you something different though. Do you still play squash just for fun?
Yes, yep. I'm probably only once or twice a week, and you can do conditioned games. In other words, you play a game, but there are restrictions in it. So if you could imagine, say, a game of tennis where you only play to the baseline, or things like that. So it's less demanding, but the reason I do that, there's a one particular guy I play, and we play. So the ball has to just go to the back of the court, but you volley a lot as well, so you can make it testing. But in between games, I usually do court sprints. So
Right.
we play a game, and then I'll do a minute's worth of court sprints, and then I have to recover for the next one. But I find that squash is quite because it's such a dynamic movement, and you're changing direction, and the ball's gone there. You thought it was going there. Oh, I've got to change direction. You're lunging. You're off balance, or you've got to balance yourself. It's much more. It's much easier to injure yourself,
I
basically.
was going to
And
ask you about
I
injuries.
prefer, yeah, and I prefer to keep injury free, really.
Sure.
So a lot of my training, even though you can train hard, it's symmetrical, it's in control, you're controlling it. Whereas squash is dynamic movements, all sorts of, weird, you're off balance, you're stretching, you're bending, you're twisting around, and it's easy to pull a muscle.
I
It,
bet.
I say that it doesn't mean it's a sport it's just, it's like if you watched a tennis match, they're flying around all over the place. You'd think, gosh, I could easily injure myself if I was doing that at 60. So
Right.
it moderates down. Um, but it doesn't mean I can still train hard at it. So I guess it's, yeah, I play once or twice a week, and have that as one of my training sessions. It's nice to sort of just keep in touch with it, really.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, we have a friend in the chat who, Tom, you're in your 40s, right? he's stepping back in the ring as a professional wrestler. He's going to do
Okay.
the high flying moves. So it's going to be interesting to hear his
And
stories.
was he? You say stepping back into it. I wonder if he was he? He did it professionally in his 20s or something, or semi-professionally, or
Tom, he's almost 45. Um, when you used to do it, how was it? Was it he was pretty. I'm going to say what semi professionally, Tom, or professionally.
and I
Um,
presume it's against other 45-year-olds.
no,
Oh,
no,
right. So he's stepping back into the ring against youngsters as well.
yeah, and he's
Right.
doing.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever seen the Mexican style of professional wrestling, where it's like high flying. You get on the top ropes, and you do the drop kicks and the
Oh, right.
acrobatic
That
stuff.
sort of wrestling.
Yeah,
Right. So not the American on the mats wrestling.
no, no. This
Oh, I see.
is yep.
Okay.
Jump off the top rope with a flying headbutt and the sunset flip,
Like the
and
WWF.
yeah, drop kicks.
Okay.
Um, he said he did it when he was 17 or 18, semi pro.
Yeah.
But
Good luck.
that's yeah, that kind of stuff is difficult to do any age. The acrobatic stuff, um,
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
especially involved another body. You're not just doing acrobatic stuff on your own. You're
Yeah.
doing it. And Tom, what do you weigh, Tom? He's going to be up against some pretty big people too. Um, Interesting. I wanted
Does
to
the
ask
does
you.
the it doesn't bother you, Tom, about the injury side of it?
He's about 185 ish. Tom,
Okay.
are you worried about injuries at all? How during your professional career, how do you manage injuries? Did you manage to stay pretty much injury free, even up until playing up until
My,
40?
myself, yeah, I think I was quite lucky with injuries. You obviously did get injured, but it would be, you might pull a calf or a groin or something, and in 2 weeks later, you were fine again, um, and you could still train, like you could do bike. So, if you pulled a calf, I'd go straight on the, I've been on a running machine, thought, oh, I've just tweaked my calf here, and gone straight on the bike, done a hard session on the bike, and the calf hasn't been impacted at all. Um, or groin, I'd have maybe a few rest days, and then I could go running. The groin wouldn't hurt running. So there was always something you could do, but no, I didn't have any chronic injuries.
Good.
So I was quite lucky, but I was very, very. I would always, stretch before and afterwards. So I was quite sort of onto the whole warming up, warming down, stretching before, stretching afterwards. Um, and also because I started late, I think I was training on an already fairly mature body. If you start training at sort of 18, 19, you're already, it's not like you're training really hard at 10 years old when you're still growing.
Right.
I knew there was when I did the sports science degree, there was a girl that joined the course, and she'd been a gymnast throughout her youth, and she was 5 foot tall. And when she did the course, she stopped gymnastics, and she grew to 5'6". Like 3 years
Yeah.
later, she was 5'6", and she might have been 19 at the time, and at 22, she was 5'6". Yeah, it was. Quite
That's
interesting,
interesting.
how the energy is going into your sport rather than growing. But
Right. I wanted to
so
ask
yeah,
you. Been wanting to ask you this for a while, actually. Why squash?
yeah, it was just I got into it with uh yeah, when I was so in England, we have there's the sixth form and the seventh form, which are the years that you do A levels. So A levels are, so you've got your exams and your the exams you take up to 16, and then people can leave school then if they want at 16, or you can go till 18 and you do your A levels, and you take 3 or 4 of those subjects, and they're a little bit, because you're older, the schedule is a little bit more laxed, and during the games periods, you could basically do what you want. And in the sixth form, I went across the road and I used to play pool with some friends. And while we were there, we noticed that some of the seventh formers were playing squash because the pool table was in a squash club. So you'd look over the balcony, oh, what are these guys doing? And then in the seventh form, we thought, well, we'll give it a go. So there was a squash club just close to the school, where I used to just play pool with the other lads. And so just saw it coincidentally there. And then that summer, there was a guy that I played at a leisure centre. So they were sort of public leisure centres, not a. You would have a dedicated squash club, which would be a private members area, a private members club. So you pay a membership, etc. But I started in a leisure centre, which is more of just a public gym, swimming pool, all of these sorts of things, and sort of started there. But it was purely recreation. It wasn't, most people get coaching from a kid. Usually the way it goes is their parents play squash, they have their kids coached, and then they get to an age when they either want to take it up or not further. Whereas I didn't get any coaching, and it was just started as recreation, really. So I know when I was in the world rankings, I was the only person in the entire world rankings that never played junior squash.
Huh.
Every single one of them start as a kid, coached, and then they might go full time at 18 or something like that. And it's a huge disadvantage.
I was going to ask, you think you might have been better had you done that?
Yeah, I think objectively speaking, I could have only been better. I think obviously you develop a certain mentality for the training, but the biggest limiting factor wasn't necessarily my age, because like I say, I could still beat people at 22 when I was 38. The biggest limiting factor was technique and the fact that I wasn't coached from the start, because usually whatever you learn as a kid, you remember for the rest of your life. So if someone instills in you the correct technique for a sport as a kid, you'll still remember it when you're in your 80s. It's sort of hardwired into you. Whereas what was hardwired into me was a flawed technique learned by myself in a recreation centre.
Right.
You can adapt. Yeah, you can adapt, but it's once you've been doing that for a while, because of course you play for several years and you don't think you're going to go full time. You're nowhere near a standard that is good enough to go full time. But as you play more and more and you practice and train, you suddenly get to a point where you think, hang on, I'm beating some people here that are you could actually earn some money from it and go full time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're limited if you don't get coach. You can try to change your technique, but it's a bit like trying to change your personality. Once it's sort of hardwired in, it's very difficult to, under pressure, usually go back to what you know best.
Right.
Which in my case was a flawed technique. So then top world-class players would expose that. And you'd just be out of position and your technique was slightly wrong, and you'd play a defensive shot where you could have played an attacking shot, and all these tiny little factors all add up, and before you know it, you've lost.
Hey, Tom has his own theory about why squash. You want to hear it?
But for me, okay.
Because you can't play zucchini.
That's right. Yeah. I've never tried.
I thought you might appreciate that. Adam said,
yeah.
Sweating and smiling says, did the late start help on wear and tear on your body?
Yes, I think it did. Yeah, I think that's why it. I know people that were 30 that were having hip replacements, that had a hip replacement. what one guy, and when I look at players that I used to play with today, more of them have chronic injuries. So yes, it absolutely did. Yeah, which is one good good thing, I guess.
Back to Tom
So
wants to know: is squash and racket the same thing? Same rules?
I'm not in the US. There's various versions of it actually. The in America they call it softball because the squash ball is squidgy. You can squash it. There is a version called hardball where the ball is like a golf ball, is solid, but the court is twice as long, about the same width, but twice as long. So you hit the ball and you think, "Wow, this is lethal."
That's what I was
But the
thinking.
ball has to travel twice as far before it rebounds off the wall to come back. So by the time it approaches you, it's going at a normal speed. So if you could imagine hitting a golf ball with a tennis ball, it would be lethal, you know. But like I say, because it's got to go such a further distance, and then now there are other versions. One is called paddle in the UK. I think they're playing it in America actually.
Right.
I think there's paddle tennis. If you Google it, you get people like John McEnroe and all these other ex legends of tennis playing paddle. So it's a smaller court. The rackets are different. The ball's different. And then there are other versions in the UK that are getting popular. So yeah, there's more and more versions of racket and ball sports. But in 2028, squash is eventually going to be in the Olympics.
Oh well, so you're making a comeback.
So yeah. But yeah, I mean, it should have been in the Olympics years and years ago, really. But that will boost the profile of the sport, and
Right.
then just hand in hand, if the profile of the sport of a sport increases, then sponsorship increases, the money in the sport increases. So yeah, so it's only good really for the game, but it should have been in. The problem with squash was that it wasn't a very good spectator sport. It was great to be on site to watch it, but on TV you would lose track of the ball. You couldn't
Right.
see what was going on. It looked like two people just moving about a court, and you couldn't really see it. And it was actually a dentist who had he created a squash ball, and he put little indentations in the ball, superficial indentations, and put a shiny material on it. And there was the light that shone onto the squash court, it reflected it. So suddenly this ball was visible, rather like, I don't know if you have cat's eyes in the road that just reflect the light.
Right.
So now that the squash balls have this reflective material, which doesn't affect the bounce in any way, but any light that's shone down, it reflects it out. So you can see the ball much easier,
Oh, nice.
much more easily. And the angles of the cameras have changed. If you Google squash TV on YouTube, you'll see some of it. And yeah, the
Well,
ball is so the coverage is much better now.
are you coaching anyone?
For squash,
Uh-huh.
every so often, yeah, I'll get someone who ask for a bit of coaching. I don't do much, but yeah, there was a point last year I was coaching a few people, but I don't like to do too much of it now, because, like I say, it's just so many things, family commitments, and I also work with the family business as well, which is a building company.
Right.
So I do marketing stuff for that as well. So there's quite a few other things that I do. So yeah, I try not to do too much coaching, but
Before we wrap things up, can you tell everyone what you are doing, what you are working on? Because you're working on quite a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. Well, I'm doing the $1 billion syndrome workout plans. They're on the YouTube channel $1 billion syndrome, and I sort of that channel was actually a relaxation channel beforehand. I'd got all
I remember you
sorts of
told me that.
footage, which I really enjoyed actually, of uh, ducks, geese, um, rain videos, relaxation ocean videos, all sorts of things, and it was with music. Um, but um, but I stopped doing that because it seemed like such a saturated market. So I went into another saturated market, the world of fitness. Um,
Right.
but the Yeah, the $1 billion syndrome. So there's workout plans, 28-day calisthenic. There's three timelines: timeline 1, 2, and 3. Timeline 1 is beginner to intermediate, and they're all in the form of circuits, where a variety of different styles, where you can sort of do strength work, full body workouts, but you don't need any equipment. You can do them from home. Um, so though their timeline 1, it's just a 28-day course. There's follow along videos, and you could join in a members area on the channel on the $1 billion syndrome. Timeline 2 is a similar, but no equipment required, but more advanced. There's some of the Navy SEAL and 6 count burpees in there, and some of the exercises are more difficult. Again, full body, so you get full bang for your buck with the strength work and the cardio all in one session. And then there's a timeline 3, which is similar to timeline 2, but it also has workouts with pull-ups and dips in, and that's quite a real sort of accelerated muscle growth program. But you're getting your cardio and your strength work in, but there's a bigger element of strength in that, because obviously there's pull-ups and dips, and there's little rest between the exercises, so you find that you're fatiguing quite quickly, but that really accelerates all the metabolites in your system to which accelerates muscle growth. So so they all work really well. So I'm just sort of promoting those at the moment, uh, and but I started another channel as well, Duncan Walsh over 40, which over 40 over 50, which is dedicated to over 50s really. And so it's slightly different from the $1 billion syndrome one, because I think I don't know whether I chronically damaged the channel because it was a relaxation channel before. So I don't know whether YouTube knows what it's meant to be really.
Right.
So I set up another one, and I'm also just about to create a free download, which is all tips and hacks, fitness tips and hacks, and body maintenance tips for over 50s. Things that I've learned over the years, to sort of the best ways to get fit, the easy ways to get fit, most time efficient body hacks, how to maintain your body as you get older. So
That's free.
so yeah, I'll be promoting that. That's a free download. Yeah.
Nice. You have a book, right? Coming out.
So no, oh yeah. Well, I just put the $1 billion syndrome workouts into the form of an ebook, so they're on Amazon. So yeah, if you search for $1 billion syndrome, they'll come up, and it's basically an ebook, and it has all the links to the workouts, the follow along videos, for whichever plan. So it's not a book in the traditional sense, but it's one thing I was going to say to you as well, Eric. Um, so back in the when I was doing the relaxation channel,
Mhm.
I had all of this music created, which I owned. I own, and it's lots of piano music and lots of different styles, and it was all geared to relaxation. And I made a few albums. Actually, I had that much. I must have about at least 50 pieces of music that I now own,
Wow.
and I put them into different albums. And some was jazz, jazz piano, some was relaxation piano. Anyway, I put them on Spotify, and but I didn't market it. So I was intending to at the time, and then I switched to the fitness channel. But every so often, I get a check or a payment from Spotify for these, and I just completely forget about it. And sometimes I log in. It's called the website I use is called I think it's DistroKid, and they will have to communicate about this. But what cut a long story slightly shorter, I think I'm gonna, if I do podcasts, it's good to get the audio and put these on Spotify because every time someone listens to it, you get a slight payment. You know, it might be a few
Huh.
cents or something, but over time, and if you get them, so if you get the audio from a lot of your podcasts and live streams,
Right.
then you could put them on Spotify, and it's surprising. I just completely forgot about it, and every so often I get not that much. You know, it could have been a couple of $100 or something. I think, right, okay,
Not bad.
I
How do you get audio?
completely forgot about it. Sorry.
How do you get audio from a live stream? Do you know how it would do that?
Yeah, well, all you would need to do if you've got the file, you can. I mean, I could do it for you in a flash. I could do it in the editing software. So you just import the video and remove the audio, and then send out the audio in the form of an MP3 file. So it's you probably just need an editing software,
Right.
but it's done in a
or
flash.
someone smarter than me. Editing software
Well,
or someone smarter than me.
only in terms of editing,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, you know, if you sent me 10 podcast videos, I could remove them in, you know, do it all in 5 minutes.
Oh
You know,
well.
it's as simple. You just import. Yeah, so it's quite easy to remove the audio and then send you back the MP3 files. But yeah, so and then to get them on, and you'd create a sort of an account on Spotify, and have your sort of a Course in Miracles podcasts on audio, or all of your conversations that you've had would then be effectively a podcast on Spotify.
I like that. I'm going to,
Yeah,
after this conversation, I'm going to do my last meditation for the day, and then I'm going to look up Spotify and see about getting a. You know, before we go,
an account. Yeah,
let me say while I have you face to face, what a big help you've been for me, my channel, as a friend. You've been a constant support since day one, and I really appreciate that.
no problem. I've always enjoyed. You know, I'm sometimes. I think it was Reverend Terminator that used to said, "I'm watching from the bushes."
Right.
Or
Right.
something. He sort of coined that phrase, you know. So sometimes it's quite nice to. I think a lot of your sort of listeners and the people that come in, it's nice to have something that's there each day that people can just tune into, and something that's a constant in one's life. You know, it's a similar thing with training. You know, doesn't matter what's going on.
I think we hit a glitch.
So it'd be good.
I appreciate that, Duncan. Duncan, we hit a glitch, a technical glitch.
What was that one?
We hit a technical glitch right towards the end there. It's not your fault, glitch. We hit a technical glitch and everything slowed down. You there?
Yeah. Well, technically, technical glitches have got the right to join in the live stream if they want, haven't they? I suppose.
That's true.
We welcome everyone, technical glitches included.
Glitches or otherwise. So, hey, Duncan, you want to meet again next month? All right. I think we lost Duncan. We'll see as I say goodbye to you guys if he's able to come back in. If not, we're going to end it. I'll be back. I'll be back at 5:25. Same deal. No guests tonight. Tomorrow, though. Glitch says Duncan Wi-Fi is 2G. You still there, Duncan? We're not quite coming through.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sissy.
Okay. We'll keep in touch email as well.
Yes. And hopefully, yeah, we'll do it again next month. Thank you, Duncan, my friend.
Great. Okay.
Guys,
take care.
you too. Guys, we'll see you later today. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with us.